Now, into the ticket office of Disneyland.
Oh boy, let's do this.
Don't think the CIA is going to be trying to hack your second-gen iPod.
I didn't think so. There might have been a lot of illegal music on there. I wouldn't doubt it. But, I mean...
You were supposed to bring death to the flagships, not join them.
Google has found a new way to piss me off.
iTunes is a constant source of embarrassment.
Behind-the-scenes camera crap.
I have strong feelings about this. It's really dumb.
I am Nadella. I can't do it anymore without laughing. I was going to do the whole thing.
Welcome, everyone, to the Calling All Platforms podcast. I am your host, Wes, and I'm here with Landon.
Hello.
And Caleb. And we are here to talk all things tech. But first, Caleb, what were you doing last week?
Last week I was preparing for a camping trip that was supposed to be this weekend, just passed. That did not happen because one of my kids was puking his guts out the day that we were supposed to leave. So I have not read any news or done any research. So, listener, with any given podcast episode from me, what you are getting is about 50% cold takes and 50% hot takes, which means, the cold takes is stuff that I have a formed opinion going into the episode, because I have done some research. I understand what I'm talking about. And that's what you're getting. And then, the rest of it is sometimes me just shooting from the hip. And today is 100% hot takes. I have no idea what's going on right now.
So we'll definitely have to talk about a couple things, because just curious on your opinions on things. So
I will formulate them on the spot.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
Well, let's get into this. As last week we had talked about, there was another event for Microsoft Build. I can't help to feel that this is more of the same that we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Except more, let's just get into it. Copilot, if you didn't like it enough for me saying Copilot last week, or Microsoft themselves saying Copilot, we're going to talk about Copilot again. So what was the main points here? Well, for this, they were talking more Copilot branding on Azure. They wanted to put those together. They wanted to show, hey, look, Copilot and all these things, we partnered with NVIDIA and AMD for these new chips and these archetypes to handle all this Copilot in Azure.
Woohoo.
Yep.
Great.
That's what it was. And it just makes a lot of sense now. We had mentioned something actually a little bit before we started actually recording the podcast. These were just for the stockholders. This wasn't for consumers. This was mainly for stockholders to be like, look at what we're doing. I think that's pretty much what it was. But pretty much this Copilot branding. And yes, a little thing here. You're going to get Copilot in Teams, dear listener, if you use it. Caleb loves Teams.
It's the best.
And he loves it. And so he's going to be excited that Copilot is going to join him in his workflows.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just as soon as I can convince my work to fully adopt it, because they haven't yet. And what a shame that's been for me over the past few years.
No.
Not being able to use Teams.
That's the one thing you missed the most about your last job, is using Teams.
Absolutely.
Yep.
In fact, I just recently convinced all of my family members to switch away from using Slack because I love Teams. So, no, that was a Discord server that we set up. Oh. Am I thinking about the wrong app? I might be.
You might be.
It's the one thing that if we did switch over to Teams, as a podcast or something, it would make it easier for me to send the AI generated images that I do on a, once in a while basis.
True.
That's true.
Because, I do use Copilot to make those images. That's what I have the Bing app on my phone for rewards points, which I'm starting to, hate that process again. But
yeah,
we don't need to get into that rant. But I use that to make those AI generated images because for me, it's the easiest way to do it because it's free and easy to do. So, if we did switch to Teams, there would just be more of those.
True. But, I mean, I'd like you to try to say that. Listener, I tried to get these guys on Teams before to try it. Nope. I don't think I want to try again.
I've never even tried Teams before, so I really don't have an opinion on it. I've just heard from multiple people, not just Spenlove. I've heard from multiple people that it's just not a great experience. So I'm fine not having that experience myself.
Fair enough. Well, let's get back into the event here. They also did mention on there that they're still working with OpenAI and GPT. They showed that same Minecraft video that they did last week about someone talking to ChatGPT about Minecraft, saying, "Oh, how do I build a wooden sword or this or that?" And it just pretty much explained to the person that was talking to it how to build the sword, what materials it needed, things like that. And then they showed off a new video of a guy with his sandal asking ChatGPT if the sandal would be good to wear on a cold camping trip, and asked that, and it said no, you should probably wear something a little warm.
I was really hoping that it would say yes, that is the perfect footwear for that activity.
He held it up to us so they could see it, and it responded no. So that's your stock, that's your money at work right there. So, or if you invest in that. Yes. So, and obviously there was a lot more branding, a lot more fluff for Azure and Copilot and all that. But that was it. If you want to look at it more and be more in depth, because obviously Microsoft Build is more of a developer conference, and they're wanting more developers to develop for these platforms and Azure and all these, you should take a look more in depth into it. But the key highlights were these things here. So last week, this kind of for Spenlove, they announced the hardware, the Copilot with PCs, Copilot plus PCs. That's the name, Copilot plus PCs. So
Love
name,
that.
I had mentioned, since you didn't listen, I asked Landon, I was like, can we put that as a mention as worst tech name of the year? I was going to add it, but we have to have your
fully. No,
okay.
I am in support of that nominee. Absolutely. Absolutely crushing it in the industry this year with horrible, awful names for things.
We've got a few here. We've got
that's now number 10 on the list, and we're in May.
Yep. Haven't even hit the 6-month point yet, listener.
Oh,
this is going to be a big category come the end of the year awards, man. I gotta say,
we're going to have to break this up into multiple categories of the category.
Oh, jeez.
Like, worst.
Who did it worse?
Name
Who
for
got
a
it
computer?
worst?
Worst name for a service. Worst name for a phone.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
But that's what they showed, and then also they showed the Surface, the two main Surfaces products that they had with the Qualcomm chips in it that they talked about, and they did say later they'll have Intel and AMD's chips with the NPU that they've been working on to put on to make it a Copilot plus PC, and pretty much they're wanting to take that same idea and put it into Azure for this Microsoft Build event. So with the new NPUs, Spenlove, do you have any quick takes or anything you wanted to mention on either of those things?
Well,
hot takes.
We did chat a little bit about this right before we started recording the podcast, and I kind of summarized some thoughts that I had gotten from a video that I watched on YouTube a few days back. And so here's the question. Should I attempt to restate my thoughts again, or Landon, do you want to just take that soundbite and drop it in like right here? That's the question.
Yes.
Okay.
No, whatever you want to do.
Well, here, I will attempt to summarize, because let's be honest, I was a little bit like loopy while I was saying that. I'm not sure I'm less loopy now. I don't know that makes a difference. So I'll attempt, listener, to re-summarize. If it sounds like there's a hard cut right here, it's because Landon listened to this just now and decided, without telling me, that he hated it and is going to just use the one from earlier. Okay,
or listener,
essentially-
the better option that might actually happen. He'll
Oh, no.
say this. I'll post it after, and you can compare.
There you go.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So essentially, the guy in this video was just kind of pointing out that, like, just stepping back and looking at the industry as a whole, AI doesn't seem to make any kind of sense from the perspective of development for consumer electronics or really kind of development of any sort of technology, right? Typically, when a technology is developed, it is because there's some kind of problem or some kind of, call it a problem, something that needs a solution. And usually if something is developed with no problems to solve, it very quickly just kind of ceases to exist, and he just sort of stepped through, like, right now we have the big players, the tech giants, the Microsoft, Apple, Google, Nvidia, Qualcomm, all these people that are working on developing stuff specifically for AI or developing the AIs themselves are not really, they don't seem to have any actual problems they're trying to solve. They don't have a purpose for any of this development. They're just doing it because they're scared that somebody else will do it first. And if they don't do it first, then, or they're not right there at the beginning with everybody else, then they're going to lose profits, right? Or their ability to grow their profits year over year is going to fall. They're going to fail. And that, so that's their concern. Then you have like still kind of the big players in AI, but they're not like established players. You've like the Rabbit and the Humane AI pin, stuff like that. And he's like, these people kind of have like tech bro energy, kind of in the same way that we had with the NFT craze, where everybody was NFTing everything. And, that's not really about solving a problem. It's about making a quick buck, right? Like, how do we jump on the money train that this is right now and turn that into $1 billion that we can then immediately just jump off the train with our giant haul of cash and leave it. They're not trying to solve any problems or developing anything that anybody can actually use. They're just trying to make a quick buck. And then you have the developers who are actually making the AI. This is stuff like OpenAI, Sam Altman, and the development that they did with DALL-E, with ChatGPT, that kind of started the whole generative and conversational AI hype train. Because it's not like people weren't trying to make conversational, like, computer stuff before that. Google has been doing that for years and years and years and years. And, the Assistant was slowly getting better. And we occasionally had comparisons between Google Assistant and Siri and Alexa and stuff like that to see who was better at carrying on a conversation. And invariably it was Google. It was always Google. And so, that kind of existed before. But what OpenAI was doing was just like, it was kind of a quantum leap in the quality of that. But there was no actual reason for them to do it aside from to see whether they could, So the actual developers are caught in this whole, in the Jurassic Park situation, your scientists were so concerned over whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should. None of these people, none of these groups have problems that they're attempting to solve with any of this generative AI stuff. Now, that's not to say that there aren't problems that can't be solved by neural nets and even some generative AI. Like, there are problems we can use to solve this stuff, and people are using neural nets to do really cool stuff on very efficient AI chips, right? Like, the neural engine has been in the iPhone for years, and I just recently read a paper from a couple of years ago about somebody who had developed an algorithm that used the neural engine on like A-series iPad chips or something like that to take pictures and spot cancer using an AI. And I'm like, that's super cool. That's a diagnostic tool that would help like family doctors and stuff like that. Like, if somebody walks in complaining of these symptoms and this doctor's like, should I refer them to a cancer specialist or should I not? oh, okay, I can take a picture of them with an iPad, and then this tool will tell me whether or not what are the odds, and then I can make that call. What a great tool. That's fantastic. Apple, Google, Rabbit, Humane, none of these people are developing anything even remotely similar to that. These are not tools that are designed to solve problems. These are just things that exist to see whether or not we can make them exist. And then all the giant tech companies are like, oh, I better do that fast, even though they have no idea what that even is. So yeah, that's like, I'm sorry, being able to identify a sandal and tell an adult man not to wear a sandal while he goes camping somewhere that might be cold, that's not a problem that we need to solve with technology. That's a problem that Mother Nature solves quite effectively. It's called natural selection. These people are supposed to go out into the wilderness with sandals and die so that the gene pool gets better. That's how this works. We're essentially like cribbing Mother Nature's ability to improve the species. No, like it's just, these are not problems that need to be solved by technology. None of this is. And even if it is, it's a problem we already solved. This guy can grab his phone that he is using to ask an AI to do something and just Google it. Just Google it real quick, man. Like, it doesn't take hardly any time. You get the exact same information. And honestly, you get it in a format that's way easier for you to parse and is way easier for you to tell whether or not it's wrong. Because, like, sometimes the AI tells you, yeah, sure, wear flip-flops into the Arctic. It'll probably go fine.
I saw a quick picture of someone asking, I think it was Gemini, like, hey, how do you make pizza? And one of the lines, it says you get the bread, you do this, and then one of the lines it says also you could add glue for better flavor.
See, and that's the thing, is it's like the developers look at that and they see, oh, that's a funny joke, and the tech companies look at that and they see, oh, this is a thing we've got to squeeze out. And users don't care because nobody is asking an AI how to make pizza except for the lulz. Nobody's actually solving problems with this stuff.
Plus, I think YouTube's already corrected that, or before hitting AI, just like, oh, here's a YouTube video on how to make pizza.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's funny because, I've heard, I can't remember, I want to say, I think it's OpenAI that programmed a lot of these large language models off of Reddit. And the problem with doing that is, yes, there is a lot of good information on Reddit, but there's also a lot of bad information in the form of jokes, like putting glue on pizza. If you're reading that, that's a joke. But AI doesn't know that's a joke, so it's going to see that, oh, a lot of people upvoted that because they thought it was good, when actually people just thought it was funny. So I'm going to put that into this recipe because obviously people want that. It's like, no, that's not what people want.
No, that's totally true. It's like a whole bunch of development and so much money is being spent on this. So much time in the news cycle, like billions and billions of dollars and man hours that are just being poured into what is essentially a black hole of nothing, because so far nobody has presented any problems that this technology will solve.
Yeah.
Because to be clear, listener, you're all like, well, but what about the cancer diagnosis thing that you just mentioned? That's not being solved by large language models or generative AI images.
No.
Like none of that has anything to do with, it's a completely different algorithm, uses the same type of processor as a large language model, but otherwise has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing is,
the technology behind it is promising. Like that thing Caleb said, that is a promising thing that could happen if the right people are developing this. But the problem is, and I go back a few, even 4 or 5 years, Google, they've been doing large language models, this type of stuff, and even Apple's been doing little things here and there, but they were doing it not in a way to make it just like, I blame this kind of on OpenAI and Dolly and those type of programs because they put a fun consumer product type thing out there that, like Caleb said, does nothing. It's just something interesting, and it went viral. It went viral, and because of that, now Google has changed what they're doing. They were making things that were actually useful, like putting like just little things, like one or two things in every I/O conference, or in Apple's case, one or two things in every version of iOS, things like that were actually beneficial to consumers. Like I think of Google with Magic Eraser inside of Google Photos. That's a really beneficial thing to have.
Sure.
But all this other stuff that they're starting to do is, like Wes was saying, it's to prove to their shareholders that, yes, we're doing the same thing that this viral company has been doing, because that's what they think people want. But in reality, we don't. I mean, yes, it's a gimmick. People will be like, oh, yeah, look what I can do on my phone, blah, blah, blah. I'm never going to use it again.
Yeah. It's a fun toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like, it's so disposable. It's disposable technology, which is a thing that exists and has existed for a very long time. But, like, the simple fact of the matter is this is not going to come into anybody's life and fundamentally change their lives.
No.
There are some pieces of technology that do that. The smartphone made it possible for everybody to have access to, like, the answers to questions, like, and basically unlimited encyclopedia constantly. It was always in their pocket, always on their person. And, like, that is life-changing for a ton of people. Smartwatches, fitness trackers that work well and are constantly on you, has had a measurable improvement in people's health, and has genuinely saved some lives. Like, that's pretty cool, right? The development of the all-in-one PC with the original Macintosh that was designed to go into people's homes, or the iMac that was designed to be dead simple to connect to the internet and stuff like that. These are things that are noteworthy in the history of technology because they made measurable improvements in the lives of not only their users, but in the lives of the users of competing products that sprung up after them, right? It's like, Apple, the iMac was kind of the first computer that was designed to get the average schmo on the internet, but it's not the only computer that did that. Every Windows since then has been built the same way, Like, make it easy for people to connect to the internet. That changed the world. And the original iBook, that was the first laptop with Wi-Fi. Every laptop has Wi-Fi. It's not like it's an Apple exclusive thing, but you just have these moments where technology changes, measurably improves things for everyone around them. And I'm sorry, but we've been looking at the generative AI and the large language model crap for a couple of years now, and I feel comfortable saying that if this was going to measurably improve everyone's lives, it would have by now.
Yeah.
It hasn't improved anybody's lives. Yeah. I just don't. I'm hoping. I mentioned this before we started recording. I am holding out hope for Apple. I'm not entirely sure why, but I am. I mean, we still have a couple weeks until WWDC. Maybe they'll surprise us and actually put out something that is beneficial to customers and not just hey, shareholders, look what we can do. Keep spending money, that type of thing. But I have a feeling that it's going to be that instead of, hey, consumer, look what we actually are making better for you. No, it's not going to be that, unfortunately.
No, I am becoming very jaded with the whole AI thing as time goes on. And here's the thing, like, I have used generative AI, like image generation, for a couple of different things over the past few years, mostly just as a toy to play with because it's funny. I did use it to generate, like, to make a piece of art where I had a concept for what I wanted it to look like. I built it out of Lego, took a picture, fed that through a generative AI to like turn it into a different, like into a drawing style. And then I used that as a basis for an actual drawing that I did. And I was all like, hey, that was actually kind of cool. That worked pretty well. I went to do something similar about a year later, and I started with the whole like, okay, I'm going to get the image AI to generate something for me, and then I'm going to turn it into a piece of artwork myself just based off of that concept. I started doing that. It didn't work. I couldn't get anything usable out of it. And then I turned around and just went back to what I did before, which is like, hey, I'm going to find a couple of reference pictures, and then I'm going to just reference those myself while I create the artwork. And that was so much easier, worked so much better. The output was so much better. And I was just like, freaking, okay, so maybe there is a use case in my workflow for art that makes sense with generative AI. But like, it's like saying, hey, I've got a brush set in my art software that's like 50 brushes, and generative AI is one of those brushes. I use it occasionally.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like I've got a specific type of cumulonimbus cloud brush, and I occasionally use it when I want to paint cumulonimbus clouds in the sky of a very specific image. And that's sort of what generative AI feels like. It's something, there's very limited, very specific set of circumstances where this is a useful tool for me. Other than that, it's just a toy, and I could get along absolutely fine without it. It's so like, I don't know. I look at everybody using generative AI, and they're all like, oh, look at this thing I made, and look at this thing. And I'm all like, this is not different than what you were doing before. Did it even save you time? I'm not sure, based on what you just described, that it even saved you time. I don't think this is doing anything for anybody. I think it's just making a whole bunch of people mad, and that's it.
Yep.
So
We'll
anyways,
see.
That's kind of where I come down, and it's lovely to hear that Microsoft's build ended up being the same as Google I/O. To basically, that just makes it so that I feel like I don't actually have to watch WWDC, because I can just assume it will just be the same song and dance for the shareholders again about AI and crap like that. Cool. Saved me some time.
Saving time. Oh, yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it will probably be shorter than Google I/O.
Well, we can only hope.
Seriously.
All right. Well, that was the Microsoft Build event. If you want to get more in depth on that, you can look up some videos and things if you're interested in that, listener. We're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to some Google news here. I like this here, Landon. Apparently nobody really likes AI overviews in search.
Speaking of AI not being beneficial, we're just going to continue this rant a little bit.
Here we go.
So,
oh boy.
Listener, you might remember I talked about AI overviews from Google I/O. They've been around for a year. They mentioned them first last year at I/O, but it was kind of only certain people could use it, and it was an opt-in type thing. Now it's just out there for everybody to use, and pretty much everyone hates it because, like, what Google was doing before in search, I think worked really well. Like you would, especially if you're asking a question, generally it'd give you the answer right at the top. Most likely it'd give you what you needed to. It would also provide a link of where it found that answer. If you clicked on it, it would take you and give you a little more perspective as to the article and what you're looking for. Or you could scroll down and find more searches related to that question. Well, AI Overview is trying to do that, but it's not giving like where it's finding this information at, and sometimes it's incorrect, like putting glue on pizza, things like that. It's right, like you have to scroll down a while before you actually get to search results, especially if you're on a phone.
Gosh.
Like if you're on a phone, the only thing you see is this AI overview in search. You have to go scroll down the page for a minute to actually find what you're really looking for. And right now, there's no way to turn it off because Google thinks this is what everyone wants. And I haven't looked up these articles, but I do know for a fact there are articles from different tech sites about how to search specifically and try to not have AI overviews show up. There are ways around it, but so if you do want to do that, go directly to these websites, like your general tech, like usually maybe go to a Google tech site, like Android Police or 95 Google or something like that. They'll probably have an article about how to try to bypass AI overviews. Again, it may not work every time, but it might lessen how often it shows up. And my one question I had for this topic is, are we surprised that nobody likes this?
No,
I'm not.
No.
not at all. 100% not. I have never felt more justified in setting my default search engine on my phone to DuckDuckGo than I feel right now.
Seriously.
Like, don't get me wrong, DuckDuckGo occasionally does not really give you what you want in a search result, but man, it doesn't give you that. And that's nice.
Yeah.
What the heck?
I mean, like I said, I think Google had search done really well up until this point.
Yep.
It was working great.
Oh,
Nobody
sure.
was complaining. Nobody was asking for more specific things that might be right.
Nope. Nope. That's just, oh my gosh. It's basically like taking a pretty darn good, like, encyclopedia. And okay, so think of it this way. Generative AI giving you AI overviews at the top of your search results is sort of like asking a 12-year-old to read an encyclopedia so that you can ask them questions about what they read in the encyclopedia. You know, it's like maybe they're going to give you some of the correct information, but it's going to be mixed in there with a whole bunch of other nonsense that just doesn't need to be in there, shouldn't be in there. And they're going to correlate things in ways that are weird, difficult to understand, and very probably wrong a lot of the time, and then spit that out to you. Whereas before, what we had was Google just basically reading all of Wikipedia, and if you asked for something, it would just give you bits from Wikipedia that are like, well, I found the thing you're talking about in this article, in this article, in this article. Here's the articles. That's perfect. That's exactly what I want. I actually like.
See, and now it's taking all of those bits from this article, from this article, from this article, and combining them into one. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Or even worse,
what
sometimes completely plagiarizing articles. Like there was one, I think it was Will Saddleberg from the Android. He's on Android Police. He's on their podcast. He mentioned last year when they were first trying this out, he asked it a question and he was like, that response sounds really familiar. It was literally what he wrote in one of his articles. And it wasn't crediting him at all. It's like, I mean, come on, man. Google, you're supposed to be better than this. I mean, obviously.
And we've talked about how this is like the most self-defeating way to do information gathering that could possibly happen, because AIs like this only work because people have written down information and put it on the internet and made it freely available. People have only written down information and put it on the internet to be freely available because they can make money by doing that, by having people click through to their page and see ads that are usually served up by Google, right?
Yep.
So if people aren't clicking through to their pages, then they can't make money, which means they're going to start doing things to try and save money because they can no longer operate the way they did before. And usually what that means is firing writing staff that actually do the research and write the articles, and they replace them with, you guessed it, ChatGPT, which goes onto the internet, finds a whole bunch of pre-existing information, and then generates articles with it, which it will then turn around and reference in the search results it gives you in Google. So that now we have AI generating probably incorrect information and then referencing probably incorrect information along with a bunch of other probably incorrect information to give you definitely incorrect information. And suddenly this whole, the smartphone being your access, your little window to an encyclopedic knowledge and understanding of everything that the human race knows, that's gone. we don't actually the smartphone becomes basically only useful for communication again. We're actually regressing here. What on earth? We're going to go back to having dumb phones. Steve Jobs is spinning in his grave, frankly.
I mean, I heard this somewhere else earlier this week. It's like Google has programmed us to do to search for certain things for 20 years. And then overnight they said, nope, not anymore. We're doing it this way. It's like, whoa, wait, what? And it's not just how we search, it's how people get found in search. It's been the same, more or less the same for Google's existence. How you get found in search and how you find in search has been this way. And now it's just completely different. And nobody knows how to do it. Google obviously doesn't know how to do it. So it's just a guessing game at this point.
And it's a black box because AIs, like any large language model, like anything generated using neural networks and that sort of technology, it's a black box.
Right.
We put in inputs, we let it iterate billions of times, it spits out outputs. We don't know what happens between those two things, not with any kind of precision. And so, yeah, Google can't know. They create this thing, they stick it out there. If all they have to know whether or not it works is the output it spits out. And if the output is occasionally wrong, they don't know why. They just know it's wrong. And so they're all like, crap, we gotta, I guess, have better input data because that's the only variable they control.
Yeah.
It's like, what the, it's just really dumb. It's just, listener, I have strong feelings about this.
No, you don't
tell. I can only shout it's really dumb about all of this AI nonsense that has been building over the past few years so many times in one episode. I'm pretty sure I'm getting close to that limit. And once I get beyond that limit,
shut down.
I get put on a blacklist by everybody who's hosting the podcast, probably.
No, we like the rants,
I think you need to take one of those "it's dumb" and put it in the intro.
I think I could take them all, man. And it would be an extended intro.
That's the entire intro. Just it's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb.
Oh my god!
It would go past the 36 seconds that it already is and be about a minute and a half. No, so going back to having somewhat hope in Apple, I think it's because Apple has always been the company that is never out there doing things first. They always wait a while, which usually, because even past the point that we're like, okay, are you actually going to do something, or should we just not be waiting anymore? Like USB-C, It's like, are you really going to do it or not?
Yeah.
So that's why I still have some hope for WWDC, because maybe, just maybe, they will hold back. I mean, obviously there's going to be AI stuff involved. We've already seen it in the iPad event. It's going to be there. But I'm hoping that it's not nearly as much as what OpenAI has done, what Microsoft has done, what Google has done. And it's actually something somewhat beneficial. I still think there's going to be some sort of toy factor involved, because there has to be to please the shareholders. I'm just hoping that it's not as much of it's not the whole thing. And that's what Google was doing in the past. They were just putting out, as they got better at doing it, they would add it to this. They would add it to this. They added, search inside of Gmail was decent. And hopefully this AI stuff that they're doing makes it better, but we don't know that yet. And they did stuff inside of Photos, and it was great. They've done little things here and there to make things really good. And that's what Apple has always done. But with the way things are going right now, my hope is just it's very, very little, It just, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible that WWDC, their announcements are going to be limited to, context-aware fill and repair in Photos, like we've had in Photoshop for a very, very long time, but which you can now do on smartphone chips because of AI.
Yeah.
It's honestly, the algorithms have gotten a little bit better.
Yeah.
But the technology has not fundamentally changed from what Photoshop implemented back in the early 2000s. We're just a little bit better at it. And also, it can be done cheaply now. Like that's all that's changed.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the only two things that I want to see from Apple when it comes to this AI stuff is more photo editing features like what Google has done inside of Google Photos, which, I mean, you can do on an iPhone, but I want this just in the default Photos app on iOS. And I wouldn't mind seeing basically what Google has done with Circle to Search on Android, where it's on device. Right. That's a key because Google is doing this on device as well. I mean, there's no way Apple would not do this on device.
Yeah.
So those are the two things that I actually think would be extremely beneficial. That is one of the things that Google did. The Circle to Search on device OS wide is brilliant. And actually, I think will be helpful to the average consumer as long as they know it's there. That's the key, is knowing it's there. But I think if Apple were to do something like that and then some of the stuff inside of Photos and maybe a couple things here and there, that would be nice. Don't blow AI out your butt like Google did and just tone it down a little bit, you know?
Yep. Basically, we just want the improvements that we've been getting from Google Lens slowly over the years. Just like, catch up to that. That's fine. Stop there.
And I mean, if they do end up using Gemini as the backend, it can do that already. So it's like,
yep,
why not?
Just do it.
They could always. I hope they have a counter too at the end of like the Google one did to show how many times they said AI.
I can guarantee that they won't because it's Apple, but I can also guarantee that within minutes there will be an article about how many times they said AI.
Yeah. Seriously.
Oh, you're right. That's so true.
All right. Move on here. Looks like we're going to be talking about the Pixel 10, and it might be the one phone that convinces Landon to switch back to Android. Oh.
Well, okay. So, yes, listener, we're talking Pixel 10, which is next year's Pixel phone. We're not to the 9 yet.
Nope, not yet.
But the rumor is currently, like, there's evidence that is pointing towards Google finally joining forces with TSMC to build the Tensor G5 chip that will come in the Pixel 10. And if that is the case, I won't pre-order the phone because I shouldn't ever pre-order a phone. I often do because I'm an idiot. But Google has taught me with the Tensor series, maybe wait a minute. But if they partner with TSMC to make that chip, then that gives me hope that it will be an actual improvement to what they've done over the years. Like, right? It was originally rumored that the G4, the Tensor G4 coming in the Pixel 9 was going to be their first TSMC made chip. But that's apparently not going to be the case. They are still working with Samsung, I guess. And not that the Tensor chips have been bad. They've just been limited because they are made by Samsung. They're based off the Exynos processing. And there's a reason Samsung doesn't use that in their phones because it's just not up to par with Qualcomm. So I really hope that it does end up happening because, like I said, that could be the thing that convinces me to go back to Pixel, because if that chip is significantly better, or even just a little bit better than what has been in the phones, that's not a bad thing. Because right now, it's very hit or miss on, like, even from phone like Pixel 8 to Pixel 8, you might get a bug, you might not get a bug, and you might get a completely different bug than this person. So it's like, what am I getting on this phone versus, you never really know. And that's kind of been the case with all of the Tensor chips or Tensor chipped phones so far. So not that TSMC is just going to be the magic bullet that fixes everything, because that may not be the case, but there's a reason Apple uses them to make their chips. They know what they're doing. They're really good. So that's my hope. So we still, again, we have a year and a half before that happens, but I hope that does happen.
Yeah, seriously. Kind of makes me think if I should upgrade at 10 instead of 9.
I mean, going to what do you have, the 7?
The 7.
Yeah, so I mean, going from the 7 to the 9 probably won't be a bad upgrade by any means, but I don't know. Well, I mean, obviously we'll have to wait till October to find out, but I'm hopeful that this G5 chip in the Pixel 10 makes significantly better phones for Google.
Nice. All right, we'll go ahead and we'll move on here. Do have just a little bit of gaming news, kind of more for retro gamers, more so, I guess. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Atari buys Intellivision brand. Those of you that grew up retro, we'll say back in the day, those two used to be big competitors. Atari and Intellivision. So they announced that they acquired the Intellivision brand and certain Intellivision game titles from Intellivision Entertainment on there.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. It's kind of baffling to me that Atari has the purchasing power to buy anything.
Like, seriously.
Like at this point, they bought what? They bought like plastic cups for their break room. That would
yes.
Yeah.
Actually, they have a break room. Is Atari not just operating out of somebody's mom's basement at this point? I feel like that's the real question. I don't know.
I ought to do a little more research and be like, how are they making money?
Yes, I mean, maybe they're actually doing what Nintendo should do and selling ROMs. I don't know.
We'd have to look that up. But
I mean, they are selling like those little console
they've got
type
the
things.
One retro console thing.
Yeah. So
yeah, they do that. I know there's Atari games, like they do the bundles. Here's 60 of them. Play it on your Xbox now.
I mean, yeah,
PlayStation.
That's true. They still own IPs. They do have a bunch of digital games that they can sell.
I'd be willing to bet they also make money off of licensing, because
that's true.
Other developers probably make games that are based off of old Atari games that Atari still owns the rights to. So like, hey, we'll pay you such and such amount if we can make an updated version of this game. Or just use the name, even if it's a completely different game, which I mean, by all accounts, they most likely are, because, gaming is completely different than it was in the 80s. But, we can use the name and we'll pay you.
Yeah.
I know, like we were talking about, they've tried to create modern, that modern console stuff, put in all the Atari stuff. So maybe this is just another one of those where they're going to get more games to put out on another. What it was like the Nintendo did it, the classics.
Yeah.
How they're like, here's a quick classic. I know Atari did one.
Yeah.
And maybe they're looking at, hey, we could actually put more games into this bundle here.
I mean, yeah, because Atari's thing was like it's like a cartridge based emulator. It's not just a single thing that has some games built into it on its own ROM. It has like a slot, and you can put their basically. I think it's actually just SD cards.
Yeah,
Maybe you do in fact just use SD cards, but yeah, you can stick their own little ROMs into that and play stuff with it, and yeah, maybe they just want Intellivision's catalog of licenses so that they can put some more stuff on that thing. That might be it.
Maybe. But yeah, so there you go. More acquiring, I guess.
Yep. If you were really into Atari gaming back in the day and you don't already have all of these on an emulator on your phone, I think my real question is why not?
As he starts thinking about it, he's like, wait a minute.
Now that I think about it, which, sidebar, I predicted back when all the emulation stuff started happening on iPhones, I was like, it's only a matter of time until RetroArch launches on iPhones. That happened. So
Yeah.
I was right. I win.
That happened. Oh, awesome. Well, that's really all the gaming news that we have for this week. Like I said, there's going to be a lot coming up in the next start of June. Apparently, a rumor has it PlayStation is supposed to be doing something at the end of here in the next week or two, but they may. I haven't heard like a state of play or something. They may, but I know this is about that time when those floodgates are about to open. And
yeah,
good thing we got Landon here to help us out with this gaming news. I mean, he's going to be all about it to help us out.
Right.
Yep. Sure.
Anywho, well, I think that's the end of the episode. Unless Landon, you have one more thing for us?
No, I don't.
Darn it. Well, I'm sure you know what? He may have another twofer one of these days, and we'll compensate for that. Who knows? All right, dear listener. If you want to get hold of us, you can on our social media platforms. Have a question or anything you want Caleb to rant about, that's also a possibility. I mean, if you want to talk to him about AI or anything, you could also maybe rant to him about AI and be like, hey, but also we need a video of you on the YouTube channel ranting about AI.
Listen,
it might help.
I could just
that YouTube channel, listener. That YouTube channel is Calling All Platforms Gaming, as well as Calling All Platforms Tech. You can take a look at that. All right, dear listener, have a good week.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Calling All Platforms is a production of Supporter Sound Studios. To learn more about how you can support the podcast, go to www.patreon.com/callingallplatforms.